Okay, so tēnā tātou katoa, nau mai haere mai, whakatau mai rā. Good evening, everybody. Welcome. My name is Wyndi Tangi. I'm totally excited to be sharing this stage today with the lovely Vicki. So before we start, I'd like to open us up in karakia, if that's okay. It's just a way to create a nice, safe and beautiful space for us this evening and to cast a bit of protection over us. So if you don't mind, I'll start that off. So kia inoi tātou, let's close our eyes. Whakataka te hau ki te uru, whakataka te hau ki te tonga, kia mā kina ki uta, kia mā taratara ki tai, he hiaki ana te atakura, he tio, he huka, he hauhu, tihei, mauri ora. Awesome. Kia ora whānau. So, for those of you who maybe you are new to Zoom, some of you probably use Zoom a lot, especially post-COVID. There is a control panel at the bottom of your screen. If you click on that, it'll share with you the chat box. So please feel free to throw comments into there. We're going to be asking you questions as well. So look for that chat box so you can pop your messages inside there. If you do need to leave the meeting, you can just go through to the little, there's a little man and a little door. You can go to that to leave the meeting. And if you need to come back, you can just come straight back in through that same link. So now that I've told you about the chat box, let's see if you can all find it. So if you could go anywhere in the world, no expenses spared, where would you go to? If you could jump on a plane tomorrow, pop into the chat box, tell us where you want to go. You don't have to pay. Maybe your boss can pay, or if you are your own boss, maybe someone else can pay. Maybe you can win a trip. So let us know in the chat box. Where would you like to go? If money, Iceland. So Moana wants to go to Iceland. Why Iceland? That's an interesting place to go to. The Cayman Islands. Paria, the Bahamas, Antarctica. I'd like to go to Antarctica actually. Istanbul and then Greece, Thailand. At the moment, anywhere hot and sunny like Bali. I totally get you. Poland, Lake, is it Baikal? I wonder where that is. Marion, where is that? Egypt, London, France, and Italy. What time of the year is it? Is it warmer there? It's probably a bit warmish kind of there at the moment. And Russia. Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing that. Now, can you pop in the chat? I'd love to know where you currently are. So, where are you residing at the moment? Where are you zooming in from today? Pop that into the chat for us. So, we've got Melbourne, a couple from Melbourne, Sydney, another from Sydney, another from Melbourne. Gosh, we're really coming in from Australia. Aucklanders. I totally feel you with this cold, rainy weather. In Hastings, East Auckland, Adelaide, Melbourne, Milford on the North Shore, Auckland, Aotearoa, and Auckland. So a few from Auckland, and a few from Australia, and then a few scattered around everywhere else. So welcome. It's so good to have you all with us this evening, and thank you so much for joining us. So, without further ado, let me introduce to you. Actually, no, I'm going to do this first. So today I want to share with you what we're going to cover. So today you're going to leave as a leader capable of greater impact by understanding how fear works in your brain. You're going to learn the antidote to fear and the actions that you can take to impact real change. And who is going to share this with you? None other than this beautiful wahine that I've had the absolute pleasure to spend quite a bit of time with over the last 12 months. Super, super inspiring that she is. So Vicki Tyler is a Kiwi US dual citizen living in LA for the last 20 years, where she was the former president of Flight Centre USA. Vicki grew sales from $3 million to $27 million in the last 2 years, and now she is the founder of the Grow Zone. It's a business helping ambitious women to lead with what she calls the 0.045% mindset. Now, why that number? AI determined that she is less than 1% lucky to still be alive after surviving two spinal injuries. Vicki has walked the talk in all three elements of her coaching. Her near-death experience, global corporate leadership, and a graduate diploma in applied psychology. She's here to guide the next hour with no fluff takeaways, compassion, and a whole lot of perspective. Can I please hand it over to the beautiful Vicki Tyler?
Hi, guys. Kia ora, Wyndi. Listen, thank you so much, Wyndi, and welcome everybody. So I want to kick it off with fear, right? Why are we here to talk about fear on a Wednesday night? So I have a deep-seated fear of heights. Anybody else heights or anything else? Fingernails on a chalkboard. Let's see, spiders. Okay, so we're going to trial tonight a brand new tool that I've created called a courage index. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that later. But before we do that, I really want to throw up a really quick poll because we're going to talk about sort of fear and the overlap it has with leadership. So as I launch this poll, can you guys just jump in there and just answer whether you are, what's your role with leadership? Are you new? Are you in it? Are you an aspiring leader? Let's just see how this all plays out in the room. So yes, I have a leadership role currently at 67%, not at this time 8%, aspiring leader 14%. I have been in the past 13%. So it's still the numbers are moving, but yeah, let's end the poll there at around 63%. So if I share those results with you guys, okay, cool. And then let's take a second poll really quickly. And let's see. I want to talk a little bit about fear. Okay. Can you guys see that? You can't. Okay. All right. So this is you see if I can relaunch this. Okay. Can you guys see that now? Okay, awesome. Can everybody throw something in there because this is what we're really going to get to the nitty-gritty of tonight. And you can answer yes to more than one of these. Okay, this is really interesting. Okay, so the numbers are jumping around. Okay, like 2 more seconds and then we're going to close it out. Okay, 2 and 1. Okay, and I want to share these results with you guys. All right. So 78% fear of failure. Interesting. I actually going to give the opportunity for a few of you to put your hands up and share a couple of things in a minute. So fear of failure, and then closely followed by what do you got? Fear of judgment, and the bottom one, fear of speaking up and sharing my ideas and opinions. So here's the reason, and I'm just going to take that off the screen. Okay, so the reason that I'm doing this particular event is that since coming back from the States 4 years ago, I've started, and a lot of you will know, I just finished my graduate diploma in applied psychology. I'm super interested in some of the stats that have been coming out around women in leadership. There was one by intelligent.com that came out of the States that said 63% of women are not putting their hands up in meetings for fear of the way that they will be judged or perceived. Right? Kind of alarming. So that's nearly 3/4. And it may not be anybody in the room, but it certainly means it's your sisters, it's your friends, it's your colleagues, right? Can everybody relate to this? Can I just see a show of hands if this is making sense? Okay, awesome. Okay, so in a minute, I'm going to randomly pick 2 people, and I'm actually going to, before we go on to the next part, get you to stand up, join me on the stage, and actually share a little bit about yourself in 45 seconds. So let me just choose who. Okay. All right, I'm messing with you. So my question for you is, did that create any kind of a physiological reaction in your body? Can you throw it in the chat, or if somebody wants to unmute themselves and share, I would be super, super intrigued. Okay, Rochelle, please unmute yourself and just share what happened physiologically about any kind of reaction about the thought of jumping up. You are on mute, Lovey. Do you want to unmute yourself? Okay,
Hi,
go for it.
I'm Rochelle. I thought, what am I going to say? I've got no idea what I'm going to say if you ask me, because your whole body suddenly goes into almost shock mode, and you get put on a spot. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Thank you for sharing. So, all of us have a million stories we could tell, right? But there is something interesting physiologically that happens, and we're going to actually explore what that is tonight. And I want to give you the antidote to it. And then we've got these other tools that we're going to play around with, so that hopefully when you walk away tonight, you'll have had a little bit of an aha moment about introspection about yourself. And then as leaders of people, which a lot of you are in the room, how this might be something you can use to develop your people further. Cool? Okay. So as we're sitting here, tonight, we're generating one idea every 10 seconds. Now, that is about 6,000 a day. In an hour like this, we're probably popping off a lot more, because some studies, if you research, will say 20 to 30,000 in a day. So the law of averages, even if none of us good at maths, is that every 10 seconds, one of these is going to be a game changer for you in your life. Can you think of a time where you had a really cool idea to share about in a social setting or in a meeting that might make a project go better, but you kept your hand down and you didn't share it? Can anybody relate to that? Okay. So does somebody want to unmute themselves and just shout out, and everybody can, what do you think's going on here?
I'll jump in if you like, Vicki.
Yeah, go for it.
Hello, everybody. I'm Lisa. In terms of why I didn't say anything, because I've been shot down in the past, because I had quite a toxic working environment, which doesn't help. And you get to the stage you give up, that your ideas are not being taken ahead because you're not the favorite, you're not the golden child. In fact, you're the opposite of the golden child. You're the one that's having all the scrutiny on you, because there are others that feel threatened for whatever reason. So you just think, why would I bother? I'm going to get shot down. I'm not going to waste my time.
Okay, so we're talking about war wounds, like we're learning from past behaviors. Okay, awesome. Anybody else? Okay, so the reason, and these stats have shown, that 63% of women are not putting their hands up for fear of the way that they may be perceived, has a lot to do with fear. And as Lisa shared, it could be fear of other people's opinions. You might be in line for potentially a promotion, and you don't want to put your hand up and throw at this idea because some of the seniors in the room are saying nothing. So who am I to share my idea? And what say I fumble over it and it doesn't sound as intellectual as it does in my head before the words come out? Or fear of using ChatGPT and being, called a fraud, or not using ChatGPT and being left behind. But fear of other people's opinions, there is actually a lot of books being written about it now. The antidote to fear, it starts, ladies, with deep curiosity. Now, I'm not talking about, hey, what did you do on the weekend, or how's that project going? I'm talking about deeper questions about what sort of difference can I really make in this project? How can I really make a long-term relationship successful with this company, this client? And really go into deep thinking, because deep curiosity and fear cannot coexist in our brains at the same time. They use different hemispheres. It's like running away from a tiger and trying to solve a puzzle at the same time. You just can't do it. Different hemispheres in our brains, which means the antidote to fear starts with deep curiosity, which means that we just need to be asking better questions. Does this make sense? Okay. So when I was 23 years old, I'd come back from 5 years of backpacking, and had taken my first job with a little company called Flight Centre. They had 8 stores in New Zealand, and I didn't know what I didn't know. It was an on-the-job training. All you had to do was have 2 years of travel experience and no uni degree, which I didn't, which was perfect. And I was a runner. I used to love jogging on weekends. I was really shy. And socially, I used to go out almost every weekend with friends, and I would drink very heavily. And that was how I got my social bravery, if you like. And I felt like I became more of who I was capable of being through alcohol. Pretty sad, but true. So what happened one day, I'd been with the company about 6 months, And I decided that I wanted to go down to Queenstown and do a bungee jump. And I got a friend to come with me because I had developed a fear of heights and I wanted to kill or cure it. So I got a friend to come down. And for those of you in Australia or anybody that hasn't been there, I think of Queenstown as like a Swiss Alps, as like the Swiss Alps meets Red Bull. A beautiful little mountain town with high octane sports on tap everywhere, and did the bungee jump. Oh my gosh, right? So talk about staring fear in the face and walking away completely pumped, wanting more of that. I went to bed feeling really invincible. And a couple of hours later, I woke up freezing cold, completely pitch black. I couldn't see my hands in front of my face and screaming in pain. It turns out I had walked out a second story window, and I landed in a sitting position and I crushed my spine. I had never walked before in my life. I didn't even know I had it in me, but I had broken my spine before, only 18 months prior. And that was the reason I was doing the bungee jump, to kill or cure this fear of heights that I developed when I fell 50 feet into the bottom of a dry, rocky riverbed in Central Australia. It took a complicated 4-hour helicopter extraction and then a flying doctor's rescue down to the Royal Adelaide Hospital in spinal unit in Adelaide. Now, for the parents in the room, I'm sure you're with me when you say I can't imagine the phone call that my mum got from the doctors saying, we have Vicki here with us. She's conscious at the moment. She has multiple skull fractures. She's paralyzed in half her face, no hearing at this time. Her neck is broken in 2 places. Her pelvis is broken in 3 places. Her leg is broken. Yes, you should come. I spent 3 months in the spinal unit, and it was an incredible roller coaster of mind over matter. I used some techniques that I had learned as a teenager from some really tough things that had happened. And within 3 months, I had defied the doctor's prognosis and I walked out of there. So the irony that 18 months later, here I was on a stretcher, going up on a scissor jack loader with the beef and the chicken and the Coke and the muffins being loaded onto the back of an Air New Zealand flight to fly to Auckland to have spinal surgery again. I was just like, what is going on? And I'll be really honest with you, it freaked me out. So I don't know if you believe in God or Buddha or coincidence, but I'm like, there's a message here I need to get. And I think it's really important I get it, because I don't know if I'd be so lucky a third time. It freaked me out in that way. And I started asking deeper questions. And it was interesting because what happened is they went from why me to why not me? And what is going on here? And what do I do with this, to how do I leave the world a better place for me having been in it? And very slowly, my axis started to shift as I started thinking more deeply and more purposefully about the way I interacted with people. And I love this little sort of diagram. Here we are at point A, traveling along in our lives, all of us, to point B. Sometimes you have an incident, some tragedy, you have a conversation with somebody, you meet somebody inspiring, and your axis is tilted just a teeny weeny bit. But where you end up in point C is a long way, right, than from where it would have been in point B. And this is what was happening to me. So I went from this very shy 23-year-old to suddenly within 6 months, I was signing up for Toastmasters, and my friends were like, who are you? This was very out of character. Goal setting course, yes, please. Leadership course, yes, please. Started setting goals for my sales, and I started smashing them. And before I knew it, I was the top salesperson in New Zealand for the company and for the second year. And then I opened a Flight Centre store, and we became the most profitable startup. And then we became the most profitable startup worldwide. And just, I was off. I was living fearlessly. I was taking opportunity every fork in the road, and we get 100 of those every day, right, ladies? Like, which way am I going to drive to work? What day am I going to have for breakfast? I just started taking the harder fork. Within 10 years of starting in retail as a shy 23-year-old, I was president of Flight Centre USA. I went up there to replace the original president, who'd been there for 12 months. And because it was just going down the gurgler, they'd lost $3 million in the first 12 months. And I can say that because they'd become public at that time. So it was really important this went well. So the day that I got asked to go up there, my boss came and said, hey, you've got time for a chat? I went into the offices in Emily Place down in Auckland. And the conversation went something like this. Hey, you know, things are not going that well in the States. And I'm like, yeah, I'd heard. And he's like, how would you feel about going up and replacing blah, blah, blah? And I'm like, right. Tell me more. The conversation lasted less than 10 minutes. I knew in that moment that I would say yes, but something within me said, just pause. So I said, when do you need an answer? He said, tomorrow. I'm like, okay, when would we leave? It's like next week. Okay. So literally it was like these opportunities and don't come along every day. I kicked imposter syndrome out within about 3 seconds because I'm like, you know what? Why not? What's the worst thing that could happen? So off I went. And then after 2 years with Flight Center in the USA, I was unceremoniously whacked. And that's a story for another day. And the learnings were immense. This was post September 11. And I started my own real estate development company. And the same thing happened. I got my mojo back and I just started taking the harder fork in the road. And then I started going head to head with a lot of the big boys and winning negotiations over them, because I learned that despite your gender, if you are a fearless communicator and very respectful, it doesn't really matter. So when I came back to New Zealand, and we came back during COVID with our 2 boys for a year, and they just started thriving, 2 teenage boys. So I decided to come back to a commitment I'd made as a teenager to really make a difference in the lives of girls and women. So I did this postgraduate diploma in applied psychology because I wanted the science to understand what we can do about our lot in life. And the antidote to fear, as I say, I've learned, starts with deep curiosity. And my story, totally compounding deep curiosity, meant that I've ended up in all these interesting places and all these interesting situations and being shoulder tapped. Because when you're fearless, it's amazing how your circle expands. We're going to talk a little bit about proximity, right? And our people. So I created this, I'm going to share it with you later on tonight too, this pair, which is a personalized accountability imprint roadmap, because each of us has a different DNA. Up until the age of 8, you probably all know this, that most of our behavior patterns and belief systems are drilled into us. So that's typically how we live the rest of our lives unless we do something about it, right? And now there's so many more tools and so much more awareness that we can break chains and live more boldly, live differently to the way that our parents raised us. Now, the accountability, the science shows that you are 42% more likely to achieve your goals if they're written down. That's without all the other stuff. So, you know, if a goal is not written down, it's really a dream. I'm sure you've sort of heard that sort of cliche before. We're going to come back to accountability in a little bit. An imprint. Now, whether you realize it, you're leaving an imprint on your friends, your family, and your work colleagues every single day. So why not make it an awesome one? And then the last one is the roadmap. I mean, if we don't know where we're going, we're just sort of putting one foot in front of the other, which, look, we're already in, what are we, June, right? May. So we're nearly halfway through the year. And don't we say, oh my gosh, I can't believe we're halfway through the year. So where did it go? Do we have a roadmap between now and 31 December? So I hope by the time that you leave tonight, when you're going to have a copy of this pair, that you'll take some time to actually work on that and create the roadmap for yourself. That is personalized. That holds you accountable. That is makes you want to make more of the imprint that you're leaving on your friends and your family and your colleagues every day. Cool? Okay, awesome. So, Wyndi, do you mind putting up the courage index? So any questions? Does anybody want to unmute themselves? Any questions about any of that? Are you good? Okay. Just unmute and start chatting. Otherwise, we'll just carry on. Okay. So this is the courage index tool that you may have seen me talking about in some of my posts leading up to this event. So I've gotten some neuroscientists to look at it for me. What we're going to do, rather than do this right here and right now, I realize it would just gobble up way too much of your time. And it requires you to find probably 20, 30 minutes of quiet time and answer the questions. So Wendy's going to pop the link in towards the end of the time together. And it's 25 questions about fear and 25 questions about courage. You're going to land in one of these boxes. Now, there's no right or wrong answers. It's not anything that's going to be shared with anybody. It's just very, very personal. So when you do this, you're going to receive an immediate sort of score. And then over the next week or so, you're going to be receiving a bunch of emails which will give you like a challenge or an exercise or some science to support where you're at. For anybody that does this and emails me back, what I will do is send you a copy of this along with all 4 quadrants, the explanation for all 4 quadrants, so you can see where you might want to go. And then also the science and the exercises for something in each of the 4 quadrants, so that you can see if you want to sort of challenge yourself in an area that isn't represented in the quadrant that you end up landing in. Does this make sense, guys? Okay, so you're going to receive the link. You're going to take the time to do it, and then you're going to email me back, and I will send you all the information to support how you might actually take advantage of some cheeky little exercises to move your needle. So again, we're at point A, we're traveling to B, let's get you up to C. And honestly, I was talking to one of my clients the other night. I think for those of us that are living big lives, we actually loop around a couple of times on ourselves, and that's what I want you ladies to be able to do. Okay. Any questions about that? Throw them in the chat or pop your hands up. Okay, everybody good? Okay. All right. Wendy, do you mind popping up the pair? And so when you email me, I'm going to email you these two documents as well, because this might be a little bit challenging to read. Can we blow that up a little bit, Wendy, and then we can chat through it a little bit. I'm gonna have to put my glasses on to read it. Okay, so yeah, so why it matters. We've talked about that. Personalized, again, it's just remembering that each of us have a really superbly unique story. I do believe everybody on the planet could write a book. And it's interesting, one of the questions I ask when I start coaching somebody is like, if you were going to write a book, what would you title it, or what would you name one of your chapters that really deeply represents you? And it's interesting, I get a really interesting range of questions, including I've had some people say, I just don't know, I wouldn't have it, I wouldn't write a book, I have really got nothing to, and I'm like, wow, okay, whoa. So you can appreciate, right? We're all so uniquely special. And here's what I will say. Having come back from the States for 20 years, I've realized that Kiwis, and love you Aussies too, the ones in the room, and I know a couple of you that are living in Australia have lived here as well. It's not just a couple of Kiwis that are nice. Kiwis are really nice. And New Zealand women are really strong. They're really competent. And I'd say this goes for Aussie women too, for sure. There's something about sort of Antipodeans. Really capable, really competent, really strong. But you know what we're also really good at? Letting other people go first. Ladies, the world is 90% male leadership, 10% female at the top. I want to paint a picture for you. You go to a concert and there's a band on the stage. Men are represented by drum kits. Women are represented by saxophones. So to replicate what I just explained, we've got 9 drum kits on the stage representing 90% of the male leaders, and we've got 1 saxophone representing 10% of the women. Can you imagine the music that's coming out to you in the audience, right? If you're a news junkie like me, the world is going through a really interesting time, and it would really benefit from a slightly different leadership being added to the mix. I'm not talking about, and this may be controversial, I don't believe in quotas. I don't think we should have female leaders just because they're women. I think we need to have the best leaders. So what I do in my work is to get women ready so that they are at the front of the pack for the next opportunity. And that we need to stop letting people go first. We need to stop waiting to be asked. We just need to be ready. And then when those opportunities come, or we create them, we're like, hey, I'd be interested in us doing this in the company. Or this is the kind of work that I want to do with more women, because I'm going to call them Australasian women are pretty exceptional, and Australia and New Zealand, not just other countries around the world, would really benefit from a better mix of men and women inside the arena, if you like. Can I get a kind of like thumbs up? You understanding what I'm saying here? Yeah. Anybody got any questions or thoughts about that? No, you good. Okay, cool. So the accountability, the yellow one, we're going to do a little exercise in a minute. It's where I talked about the 42% of science shows that writing it down is superbly important. And you could Google this or ChatGPT this about the science around writing something down if you need, if you need a sort of a gut check on it. So the small step of writing it down is really concrete, right? It's like, I'm not here just to daydream or think about it, be nice. Why not? Do it differently, do it better. And the accountability, I'm going to tell you about an opportunity at the end. I, for example, belong to an accountability group, and 12 days ago, I committed to getting up at 5 o'clock every morning because I just don't have enough hours in the day. So I've worked out I do have an extra hour at the beginning of the day. So I get up at 5 a.m. and I do a self-hypnosis and a meditation every single day. And somebody asked me like, how's that going? And I'm like, you know what? I have more conviction and I have more focus. So it's accountability. So if I hadn't made that statement to a group of people, an accountability group, I probably wouldn't be doing that. I'll be really honest with you. My 19-year-old son, who I know is a little addicted to his YouTube, he and I, 3 weeks ago, I said, how about we do a 24-hour no scroll window? And I think he did better than I did. But, we clocked in a couple of times. And I said, do you want to go another 24 hours? He's like, yeah. And I'm like, oh, brilliant. Okay. So you know what? It's this whole idea of having accountability. So if you haven't got that in your world, it is super easy to create. You just have to find somebody like-minded that will just listen, can you check in with me, or can I check in with you? This is just a conversation, right? And then the imprint part, we talked about, just ladies, all I would do is implore you. I think a lot of us are just going about our days. And the fact that you guys are in the room means that you want to move the needle, right? Is that fair? Yeah. Yeah. You've got a message, you're going to leave a mark on the world. So this is what doing it consciously is huge. And then the roadmap part, which is all about writing it down. Okay. So we're going to do a little exercise. Does everybody have a pen and paper? Or you can do it on your computer if you don't. Oh, I wanted to share something really interesting that just to support the whole thing about how men and women are different, because men do tend to back themselves. You probably know these stats that, men will apply for a leadership job when they have about 60% of the criteria, whereas women won't apply unless they have 100%. Some stats will say men at 30%. So I'd also say to you, if you're talking to other women and they don't, I don't know if I'm real, just go for it. Goodness gracious, like just that whole back yourself thing. This friend of mine, Adam Krikorian, he is the US coach of the women's water polo team. They're about to go to their 5th Olympic Games with him as the coach. They have gold medaled 3 times, and they missed out last time. And he came on as a guest at my last masterclass leadership series and was talking to everybody. And he shared that he does this exercise, or he did this exercise when he was coaching men and women's teams. He'd throw the ball in, and he'd say, you can either take the shot on goal yourself, pass it to a teammate, and they can have a shot on goal. The men took the ball and had a shot on goal 100% of the time. Women threw the ball in 90% of the time. They passed it to somebody else who had a shot on goal. We're wired differently, right? He said women made him a better coach. When he did an exercise, the woman wanted to know, how is this going to give us the actual, the criteria about us doing it really accurately, and how's this going to make a difference in the game? Like, when can we use it? How's it going to make difference? The boys would just do it. They were like, fuck it, ugh, ugh, ugh. So he said they made me more accountable as a coach and a better coach. And Lisa, I see you'll come to you in a sec. The last thing I'll say of that, he said, and this is for all of us, he's like, the thing I don't understand about women is that, and we can very much relate this to certainly New Zealand. I'm not sure if Australia, you guys would feel the same way, being the underdog, right? The All Blacks will often do well because they have an underdog mentality. If women, where he's like, you're kind of underdogs, where's the fight? He's got a good point, right? Okay, Lisa, please unmute yourself and share.
Thanks, Vicki. I was just wondering, does that make women better at teamwork because of the differences between women giving the ball to somebody else who they might view as a better chance of getting it in the goal versus blokes going, beating their chest or whatever they do, I don't know, assuming they're going to get it. I'm asking the question because I'm actually very interested.
It's actually a fantastic question. So there's a lot of, I've looked at a couple of studies that showed during COVID, the rhetoric that was used by leaders around the world. The men, like Bolsonaro in South America and Duarte in the Philippines and Trump, they used war-mongering rhetoric, very divisive. So where there were, and there weren't too many female leaders, but Jacinda was quoted, much more collaborative. Now, no one's going to be happy with, like, you can't find a person, an agreement on the planet about how a government handled COVID well, right? So, and if you look at the number of governments that swung in the elections post-COVID, because no one got it right. That was just way too hard for everybody. But to your point, Lisa, yes, women are more collaborative, and that's what makes us good leaders. We have the ability to empathize. We have the ability to hear somebody's perspective. However, the fear is stopping us from sharing our perspective or asking somebody that you might know because you've had a back question, right? Like, hey, I know this person has some value to add. Why aren't they asking their question? So, whether it takes, hey, how about I softball you up? Hey, we were talking about this before. Hey, Wyndi, do you want to share it with the group? Like, blah, 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 blah. Whatever it takes to get us there, but we need to be more fearless and sharing more because we have we're competent, we're capable, we're as intelligent. Unfortunately, if this makes sense to you guys, what was Mrs. Churchill doing while Winston was out fighting the war? The women just were not allowed. So historically, and if you look at patriarchy, like, it's just, all the inventors, all the artists, women just weren't allowed. In the 70s, a woman was pulled, like, literally off the Boston Marathon track because she was a female, and the organizer, even though she was legally had a race number, was mortified because he was shamed by a journalist. So we've come a really long way, but now's the time to, and here's the other thing, I made a post about this week. Some of you may have seen it. That some of us don't want to be tainted with the ball buster brush. We don't want that false sense of identity, mistaken identity, because a lot of women who have made it into leadership are those fingernail scratching leaders. Hillary Clinton had that problem. We were there in the States at the time where men were just like, make her stop. And a lot of women were the same. Because when you've had to grow up with a really tough skin, and you're trying as a woman to emulate what masculine leadership looks like, it often doesn't land well. So it's that authentic piece. So for me, it's working with women so that we get you at the front of the pack, maintaining who you are authentically. And look, a lot of introverts, because I'm not saying that a lot of amazing leaders are introverts as well. So if we're leading with a calm tone, but a very firm tone, the reason I was able to negotiate some of those multi-million-dollar deals and take them out of the hands of some guys who were more sort of like brutish was because I was clever and I was forthright. I was super respectful. I was incredibly on top of things. And I just was assumptive that there's no reason why I wouldn't get this, right? So it's this kind of mentality that we can help our people to adopt, our women to adopt, so that we get more women in the game. For those of you, for example, this always like amazed me when you go for a mammogram, and they've got these machines that have got those corners. And I'm like, I looked it up one day. I'm like, every time I go for one, I'm like, who on earth invented these machines? And I'm like, sure enough, they're invented by guys. So we need more women engineers. We need, right? There's so many things that would really benefit the world by having, we're half of the population, and yet, 22% of the people working in AI are women. Come on, ladies. Like, and governments aren't creating AI, it's big tech, old white guys with lots of money making decisions. So we just need more women so that we end up with a better world. Is this resonating with you guys? Okay. Okay. Ooh, we're running out of time. Would you like to do a little exercise? Or would you rather I send it to you? How about I tell you what it is? And you can write it down on a piece of paper. And then you can do it later if this sounds like it might be something that you would benefit from. This is something that I do with clients. It's about proximity. One of the easiest ways to move the needle is to make sure that the people that you're spending time in the company of are helping you raise your game. So you take a piece of paper and you put 1 to 5 down the side, and you write the names of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And then you're going to have 3 columns next to it. And just at the top of the first column, you're going to write admire. And I want you to list for each of those people, and we won't do it now, but take time later, everything, the traits that you would really admire about that person. Things that you would like to emulate, for example, right? They're generous, or they're always like respectful, or whatever it is. Next column, and you can burn this later, guys, but tear it up. Traits that you, about those same people that you're like, those are traits that I wouldn't actually like to adopt as my own. You might never do it, but just things that are like, is this making sense? Yeah, okay. And then the last column, if you could write this sentence down, it's a question, do I feel better for having spent time in their company? Question mark. So it's a really great way to measure a friendship too, right? And it's a great way to tell you, it's something I share with my kids, but when you walk away, how do you feel, like not while you're in their company, but later on, do you feel like, God, that was fun? Or I gotta feel later, or like, holy crap, right? You know what I'm saying? So what I want you to do as well, then in your admire, just start circling, seeing if there's any common traits, and same thing in the second column. And that's gonna start painting a little bit of a picture for you of where you're at. But here's the thing, who's helping you lift your game, either intellectually, socially helping you be more, to connect more? Who's bringing you down? Who wants you to stay the same? I'm not saying kick to the curb your friends, but what I'm saying is that the 5 are the ones that will have the most influence on you. And it chops and changes no matter, it's going to throughout our lives, right? And I want to put a challenge out there to you guys. And if you want an accountability buddy, I will be that for all of you. When you get this link tonight and you do it, if you send it to me with your proximity challenge, I will make a note in my diary and I will follow up with you in 7 days from when you send me the email to upgrade your proximity to somebody that you admire as a potential mentor. I did this when I was a new manager at Flight Centre. So I would have been in my mid-20s. And I was a new manager and I wanted to become really good at it. So I'd read Stephen Covey's Seven Habits of Highly Effective People. You're as successful as the people you surround yourself with. So I sent her a message, and probably had to call her back then, I guess, and said, look, I really admire the way that you look after your team, and would you mind if I bought you a drink? And I would just love to learn a little bit more as a new manager about how to get better at this. And she was like, oh my God, no one's ever asked me that. Yes, I'd love to. And it was brilliant. And then we actually built this incredible connection. So I've done that a few times throughout my life. So does anybody know who Teresa Gutting is? Okay. So when she was the CEO of Telecom, I decided to go there. So I sent her a message through her PA. I was eventually got to the point where I was actually going to have a coffee with her next time she was in Auckland. And then I got a job to go actually up to Canada with Flight Centre with their expansion there. This was before the US. And so I had to email and say, listen, but I just, same thing. Look, I'm a manager. I've got really big aspirations in leadership. And would you be willing to have a coffee with me sometime next time you're in Auckland? And eventually it was like, yes, we can fit you in. So like, unless you ask, you just don't know. And a lot of people are like, I'm honestly, I would be flattered if anybody asked me that. So most of us would feel the same, right? Am I wrong? If somebody came to you and said, hey, I really admire the way you operate in the world, could I just buy you a coffee sometime? So I'd love to challenge you to go out there and do that with someone in the next 7 days. So can you just see a raise of hands of anybody that's prepared to do that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, I see a half a hand. Yeah. Okay, good. All right. Okay, well, who's going to put 2 hands up if you're going to email me and have me be your accountability buddy? Yes, Michelle, Teresa, Ali, you guys rock. Okay. So great. So, oh, Nicole, do you have a question? Or is that just because we've been raising our hands and Zoom wants us to I think when we put our hands up, Zoom thinks we have a question, but
Yes, sorry. I just,
go for it.
no, I don't have a question. I was just
You're gonna take advantage of the accountability buddy option?
thank you.
Yes, I love it. Thank you. All right. So any questions at this point, guys? Just take yourself off mute. Otherwise, we're just gonna keep going. Okay. Wyndi, do you want to throw up the keynote? And just, we've got 3 prizes we're going to give away shortly as well. I had an AI tool all lined up with a fancy wheel. Wasn't working. I even had a very nice man from India call me and we couldn't get it going. So, AI, we'll get there. Next time, it's going to have a fancy wheel. So I want to talk to you guys about this really cool thing that I'm designing that I'm going to start on the 18th of June. And I want to talk to you about if this might be of interest to you guys. So this is called the Lift the Lid Leadership Accelerator. So anybody that's interested in really accelerating their ABC model, the Clifton Gallup Strengths Assessment is something I do with all my clients. It basically, it takes you 20 minutes. It's no right or wrong answers, but it really helps with understanding how you operate in the world. And it focuses on the top 5 of 34 that help you to be really clear about why certain people bother you, or how you can manage the people in your world more effectively, if you like. Okay, the next thing we're going to do is the Courage Index tool, and there'll be 4 weeks of exercises and science and challenge. And then after that, there's a 60-minute one-on-one with me. So we'd look at that information and really take a deep dive into what's going on in your world, particularly with what happens when somebody gets a Clifton Gallup Strengths, it throws up so many questions. And one of my favorite my word of the year last year was perspective. So I spent a lot of time really kind of like deep diving into what's going on in your world and in your brain, and how do we help you move the needle. Okay, and then what's going to happen on the 18th of June, it's a Wednesday night from 6 to 7 p.m. We're going to probably go a little bit longer than that for those that can stay on. It's a coaching session, and we're going to deep dive into courage and fear and the PAIR roadmap. And then as a bonus, on a Saturday morning between 9 and 10, this is all New Zealand time, we're going to do 60 minutes of bonus group accountability sessions. So what that means is that you come along and we're going to do some coaching. It would be something that we might do as a group, or it might be sort of breaking out into little rooms. And the other thing that my bigger vision of what I'm creating is a global network for women who will learn from perspective around the world. So this is kind of a little version of that, if you like. And that's a perspective pod model, which will be global, which I can at some point I will tell you about in the future. Yeah, and a private group chat. So these are for real-time feedback and support and creating community. So like we've got tonight, this little whānau, it's creating community so that we actually have people that we can bounce off real time, and I'd be in there as well. And then next, this I'm very, very excited about. I have a friend called Michael who has a company called Vouch, and he does video testimonials. So what I do is I do an interview with you. And then after we've done at the end of our time, or a little bit further, maybe even 6 months or 12 months, we re-interview you. And to give you measurable look at your growth and maybe your hair and everything else. But so this is a time capsule video interview, and then there's a couple of little surprise things that come with that, which I won't tell you about right now, but this I think will be really, really fun and really, because how often do you think, what was I doing 6 months ago or 12 months ago, or what did I think about that and how much I've changed? So I think having like and then you realize, oh my God, look how far I've come, how much further can I go? That's the idea with that. And then we have, this is something I'm really proud of. It's a custom wahine memo bottle. This is a Melbourne company. It's a really cool story, but it has a list of 8 countries with the word woman translated into 8 languages, and Māori, wahine is the first, of countries that have done a lot for the betterment of women. So, New Zealand was the first country to give women the vote, etc., etc. But yeah, so that's a gift that you receive. And then the last one is, so unlimited 28 days access to me by phone or text. And I offer this to all my clients, and some people take real advantage of it. I sometimes set challenges. It's like, we're going to video conference each other. So I just want you to make an ad-lib video. And that's the way we're going to communicate, because it's very, very uncomfortable and you don't get to do 2 takes, and then it becomes really easy. And then sometimes I'll challenge you to do it with your friends and they'll go, holy cow. But it's just makes you more present. And but yes, 28 days access, so that if you have any questions or concerns, or you're having trouble with trouble at work with a boss or somebody that's in your team, then I'm there to support you through this as you're going through change. So any questions about that, guys? We'll just keep going. Okay. And so I put prices on this. So that's, if I broke it all down, that's what each of those things would cost. And then if you go to the next slide, Wyndi, that's it all there. And that's what the price comes out to. However, this is the steak knives part, right? Wyndi, okay, so I'm going to discount it down. $16.27. So I think when it comes to money, the way I would say, I mean, it's a big chunk of change. I think that you want to think about, if I get a promotion, or if I, in 6 months or 12 months, is this something that's is this a worthwhile, what I think I would get out of this for investment in myself? Do you want to go to the next slide, Wyndi? Okay. And it's 100% money back guarantee. So within 7 days of starting, I'll give you 100% of your money back. If something happens, it's the wrong time, or you work out, I'm actually not the person for you, right? Because that's absolutely a possibility. So, and you get to keep all your assets. So you get to keep the, the Clifton strengths and the money, the memo bottle, the one-on-one, all that stuff. That's, and I just give you your money back. I want you to be happy. You go and find somebody else that is a better fit. So, and with much love, Okay, next slide, Wyndi, please. Okay, so this is the dates. It's Wednesday, 18th of June, and it's an hour from 6 to 7. As I say, would probably go a little bit later. And then this following Saturday is it'd be an accountability session from 9 to 10, and these are New Zealand time. So for Aussies, that would be an earlier start and may not work in your day, but if it does, then fantastic. It's about a 2-hour time difference, because I think we've only got people from Melbourne and Sydney here. Okay, next slide, please, Wyndi. Okay, so who's this for? If you're willing to get outside your comfort zone, you're available for the dates. Just want to stop there for a sec, Wyndi. If you can bring a non-judgmental, perspective-seeking vibe to the group. So before you sign up, I do have a conversation with you, because the kind of environment we're looking to create is one where you can just let it all hang out. I started a women's swim group, and I'm like, if you hadn't had a chance to wax, then great. Because mums eat the burnt toast, this is just a come. There is no judgment. This is we're just bringing our raw, true selves and all our challenges, and we're just going to support each other. So if you're the kind of person that can bring that, then you are the perfect person for the group. Okay, willing to consider feedback, even if it's uncomfortable. I will hold your feet to the fire, and that's because it's so important. The growth happens not inside our comfort zone, right? Okay, next. And a sense of urgency. Let's get going. So if you're like, yeah, I'm good, I'm chilling. I was on autopilot once and it suited me just fine. But if you have a sense of urgency, it's like, yeah, I'm ready to go. Then this is the kind of thing that we're looking to, this is the environment you're coming into. We're going to move, and we're going to move fast. All right, who's it not for? Oh, sorry, there's another one. Oh yeah, the last one. You'll ask questions, yeah, and you'll seek perspective. So this is an all in. Oh yeah, because this is probably the most important piece. Do you see that at the bottom there? I want you to become comfortable with becoming uncomfortable. That is the outside the comfort zone. That's where the really cool stuff, the magic happens. Okay, who's it not for? If you're working with another person, then that's good. You do that. But I think crossing over to people doesn't make sense. Like just do that, and then we could always, like you could be part of a community in the future. But yeah, stay where you are. If you're unavailable for those times, then obviously this wouldn't work for you. And then what have we got? Too much going on to make personal growth at this time a priority right now. So because we have a Wednesday night together, but you have to go out there and actually activate, right? And think about stuff, deeply think about stuff. How am I going to do this differently to the way I'm doing it today, so that tomorrow and by the 19th of June, okay, I'm turning up the gas, the jets, and we're going. We are leaving. Yeah. Does that make sense to everybody? Okay, cool. Wendy? Okay. Testimonials. Let's flick through these to the very end. These are just really lovely testimonials from people. This one on the right is the only male on there. This is Chris Grieve. He was the former managing director of Flight Centre New Zealand. So he employed me and he fired me. And we're good friends. And he said, I've seen the impact Vicki's had on many people who, because of her influence, have gone on to successful leadership roles. And, he's not somebody that gives out sort of, graciously gives out, but it is, I'm really proud of that relationship, because I grew a lot. And he was a mentor to me, and now we're friends. It's a really lovely. But anyway, if you wanted more testimonials or you wanted to speak to anybody I've dealt with, then I would be happy to provide those. And then questions. Okay, does anybody have any questions at this time? And then happy to answer any of those. And if you're not comfortable with that, you could email me. But any questions at this time? Nope. Okay, cool. So we're going to have the option to contact me later if you do. To sign up, it would be a $250 deposit, and that is also refundable. And then what you would do is you would sign up for a 20-minute conversation with me, and we'd just make sure that I can achieve for you what it is that you would want to get out of it. We'd really, I want to make sure that's integrity on my part. So we're going to drop the link in there shortly, but we've got to give away some prizes. So Wyndi, because I haven't got my magic wheel, I've thought about this. Can you, because the way you see everybody on the screen is going to be different to the way I see them on screen. So can you pick two numbers between 2 and 8?
Then we have 18 people on the call. So I've just done a random generator, and I've got 5 as the first one.
Okay, so 1, 2, 3, 4. That's Teresa. Okay, awesome. So Teresa, you're going to win some Courage Index cards. I will send those to you tomorrow. Okay.
And the next one is 10.
10. So let me just move everybody up so I can go from the bottom. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Nicole. Okay, Nicole Lewis. So you have won a Wahine memo bottle. So I just need to get your information, maybe by email, of your address, and I will courier that to you. And the last one is a journal. So what's the number, Wendy?
14.
Okay, so I'm going to go top to bottom. So 1, 2, 3. Moana. So congratulations. So if you want to email me, Moana, that is a digital product, and I will be able to email that to you. So what I'm going to do real quick is pop a link into the chat, and you will be able to.
I've popped your Calendly one in there.
Okay, marvelous. And that's actually the website as well with the offerings, and you'll be able to go on there, and it's missing some of the options that I mentioned tonight, like the video memory vault. Sorry, memory. The librarian's gone out to get the folder. So that's the link. So feel free to take that. So that, unless anybody has any questions, Wendy's going to wrap it up with us with a blessing. And I just want to say thank you so much. This is like very cool of you guys to come and hang out on a Wednesday night for an hour. Look at that. We nearly nailed that right on the dot. And you pop the courage index in there too? Okay. Does everybody want to cut and paste or copy if you can? And if you have trouble for some reason, sometimes with Zoom, you can't copy links. I'm going to email it to everybody that attended, the link for the courage index. And if you get that back to me, I'm going to send you all those goodies I said I would. Plus, if you have an accountability, 7-day accountability, you're going to send me kind of like, maybe you don't even have to give me the name, but you can just say, and I'm going to contact you in 7 days. If you have any questions, you can respond to that email about this program that I'm starting, or any other questions you have about community. And then I'm going to those winners. If you can contact me, I make sure you get those prizes. Kim, you have a question, or are you good? Did I see your hand up, or was that just a... You can unmute yourself if you don't, but otherwise we'll keep going. Was there anything else that I said that I would do? Oh, and I hope you guys do that proximity exercise. Oh, and I will send you the pair and the courage index overviews as well. But again, look, thank you for your time. This has been a real treat. And thank you, and have a good night, everybody. So Wendy, I'm just going to pass it over to you just to wrap us up.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Vicki. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us this evening. It's good to see that you're all still here. So all of those links are sitting in the chat. So if you've got a quick moment, grab them, pop them into your browser so you don't forget. But what I'll do is I'll close this off in karakia and wish you all a very good evening. So kia inui tātou. Kia tātou katoa, te ata whai o tō tātou ariki e ukuraiti. Me te arua o te atua, me te whiwhinga taitanga ki te wairua tapu, ake, amene. Awesome. Thank you so much, ladies. Enjoy the rest of your evening.